So hi, I am doing my video on the genetic history questions in our EHR. So at Family Midwifery, the practice I work for, we use Mobile Midwife. And the questions that are on there, which I kind of have a list of them, the questions that are on there, I don't know if these are questions that my preceptor selected to be on this list, or if this is just like a standard list that Mobile Midwife makes you use. So that's a question I do have. The questions, I kind of can run through them quick. Have you or the father ever had a birth defect? Have you ever had a baby born with a birth defect? Do you yourself have one? And does the father of the baby have a history of pregnancy loss with another partner? So this includes miscarriage and stillborn. I think that these questions in the list, and then the next one is, have you or the father of the baby ever had genetic counseling or chromosomal studies done? I think those first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish questions, I think those are the most important questions to ask. We're gaining a general understanding of the client. If they've never had a history of any genetic abnormalities, great. We already know they're kind of at a lower risk. If they've gotten studies done and they've come back clear, great. We already know that they're potentially at a lower risk. So have they themselves ever been born with a birth defect? So I feel like those 4 questions are some of the biggest questions we can ask right off the bat. So I think that those are really, really great questions. 2 more questions in there is, will you be 35 and older? And is the father of the baby 50 or older by the time the baby is born? So both of those questions, we know that people that are of older age have an increased risk for genetic abnormalities. So again, I think that those questions are appropriate. I think that they're important. I think it's really important, especially in a home birth setting, that we are gaining an understanding of these questions before we can qualify them as a low-risk pregnancy. A low-risk pregnancy, to me, is someone that obviously appears healthy and has all the boxes kind of checked to every prenatal visit, but also that has a history of low risk. If there's things in there that, hey, they're at a really high risk for having a baby with a genetic abnormality, and then they don't want any ultrasounds or they don't want any testing, to me, that is not something I would be comfortable with. So I think as we are screening our clients, we also need to make sure that we're checking ourselves and ensuring that we're keeping our trauma and ourselves safe as midwives, which I think often gets left in the dust a lot. So I think that is really important to note here, and that we should be really sensitive to ourselves too, in making sure that we, at this birth, will be okay with the outcome. But sorry, kind of got a little sidetracked there. So I think those questions are really important. There are questions, is the father of the baby, do you or the father of the baby come from Jewish ancestry? And then is you or the father of the baby Black? These are important questions, as we know that there are some genetic conditions in other nationalities that have a higher risk. So those are important to ask. And then there's a couple of questions in here about blood that I'm not quite sure why they're in here. I know it says, do you have an objective to receiving blood or a blood product? And then it says, have you or the father of the baby ever received a blood transfusion? So I'm assuming a blood transfusion, if you've received one, would put you at a greater risk from potentially getting something in the blood from a genetic abnormality. I'm a little confused about that question. And then would you be it says, do you have any objection to receiving blood? I'm not sure why that question is in there. I know that there are religious backgrounds why people don't want to receive blood, that is against their religious views, and I think in this day and age a lot of people don't want to receive blood due to vaccines and not knowing what vaccines the person had. But to me, that doesn't seem like a genetic, that it's not like connected to a genetic thing. So I would love to hear feedback on that from you, about why that question's in there. And then the other questions that are in here, it says, have you ever had hepatitis or jaundice? Have you ever been a drug or alcohol user? Have you ever done illegal drugs? Are you at higher risk of HIV and AIDS? Those questions also, I know those things can affect your genetics, especially like the drug and alcohol ones. So those I get. excuse me, as far as the HIV and the hepatitis, I'm assuming that those also affect your immune system, which can affect genetics. But they're not really cut and dry of why they're in there. But that's assuming why, I'm assuming that's why they are in there. I think all these questions are really great. I don't think that there's anything else I would add. It's gaining a really good history of the client and a better understanding of other things that I might need to look for or might request in the client, such as getting additional ultrasounds or getting blood tests, that I would make more of like, hey, if you want a home birth and we want to make sure that you're safe at home, I want you to do these other things, and are you okay with that being in our care? So I think that this is great. I don't think I would change anything about it, and